All right, we are back on Steel City. I'm your host, Andre Duke, and as the thumbnail says, Terry Bradshaw calling out the Steelers on this fine Thursday morning, or well, it was Wednesday morning, but Terry comes out and says some things about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Also live on TikTok. If you're watching on Twitter or X, come on over to YouTube and join the conversation. But yeah, so let's get into it. Terry Bradshaw throwing the shade at the Steelers, telling Aaron Rodgers he can stay in California and eat bark. Um, I get it to a certain extent. It just really depends upon what the Steelers want to do. Do they want to wait on Aaron Rodgers, or do they want to hitch their wagon to Mason Rudolph? That's pretty much where we're at on this whole saga. I think this is unprecedented. I mean, the Steelers have, how do I want to put this? The Steelers have a lot of things in place to be successful. I thought they had a really good draft. I thought picking up a running back, letting Najee Harris walk, and a lot of the guys that they let walk were not too upsetting. I don't think that if you look over the past couple of years, the guys that they've let walk, the Chase Claypools, or the guys they've shipped out of town, I think the Steelers have made a really good conscious effort to keep everything going. But the big thing you have right now is the issue at quarterback. I mean, they're winning records. Tomlin's had those. Does Terry Bradshaw have the right to call him out? Yeah. It's out of the Steelers' characteristic, in my opinion, to make the move for DK Metcalf. They, have made the offense really appealing, in my opinion, to be there. They ship Pickens out. I'm not totally upset with the George Pickens leaving. That's not, or well, getting shipped out of town. That's nothing that I find terribly upsetting, to be honest. Um, George was a crash out, and maybe he'll find his way in Dallas, and maybe he'll get it figured out. But we'll see how that pans out. But wish George nothing but the best. But Terry Bradshaw having some pointed words, telling Aaron Rodgers to stay in California and wants to roll with Mason Rudolph. Do I think that's the end of the world? No. I think that Terry's got the right to criticize, because there was a long time, I think Steeler fans need to remember, there was a long time in between Bradshaw and Ben. There was a couple guys in there like Bubby Brister and Neil O'Donnell that were kind of stopgap guys, but couldn't get them over the hump. They get Ben and they get over the hump. There's only two quarterbacks that have won 6 Lombardis. The Steelers have only had, pretty much, out of the quarterback success, that's what it's been. So between Ben and Terry, I think that is something that they've addressed. They drafted Will Howard. Is Will Howard going to play this year? I don't know. It depends upon if Aaron Rodgers shows up. Also, Joy Taylor of Fox, I seen a clip of her freaking out because Aaron Rodgers wasn't there. But here's the main thing that's the common thread in this. Aaron Rodgers hasn't signed a contract with anybody, so should he be at OTAs? Yeah. Do I think that him not showing up at OTAs is that big of a deal? I mean, it was the first day. What do I think that is going to happen? Maybe he signs, maybe he doesn't, but I don't think the Steelers organization is going to wait. It's going to be, he's either going to show up or he's not. That's the big thing. And I think they're going to move forward no matter what is done. If Aaron's there, great. If he's not, they're going to probably roll with Mason Rudolph. That's just what it is. And the longer this prolongs, or the longer this is drug out, I would say, I don't think that it's necessarily a bad thing. Can Mason Rudolph elevate the team? I mean, we've seen what happened whenever they benched Kenny Pickett and they decided to get some offense. Anybody that has the memory remembers when they went to Cincinnati and won on the road with a backup quarterback. So I don't think that is out of the realm, no matter who's back there, whether it was Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett. I think that at a certain point, Tomlin is going to make the decision on who they're rolling with. And I know it's early in camp and all of that going forward, but that's just one of those things that Tomlin's got to make that decision. And let's not forget, Omar Khan has been with the Steelers since 2000. Omar Khan has been with the Steelers longer than Mike Tomlin has been there. So I think that they're making some of the different personnel changes. It's because they want to completely upgrade now. I think that, coming down from the top, they want to win playoff games. It's been, I believe, since 2017 since they've won a playoff game. We're going on 10 years. They've been to the playoffs X amount of times. They haven't won a playoff game in TJ Watt's tenure as a Steeler. So that's something to be said right there. I get it. They've only had 3 coaches since 1969. It's one of those deals that, they're tired of mediocrity. I think that's why they drafted Will Howard, and I think that's why Jack Sawyer got drafted. It's one of those things that they did to say, hey, TJ Watt, you don't resign? Well, we drafted somebody. Aaron Rodgers, you don't want to sign? Well, we drafted a quarterback. So it's coming to one of those things that I hate to say it like that, but it's kind of one of those things that it's almost getting down to shit or get off the pot with Aaron Rodgers, because I think the team is going to move forward whether you're going to sign the contract or you're not. That's just like when Brett Favre left Green Bay. The Packers rolled the 4 panels and 8 laces and played next year. So I don't think that is a terrible thing. Can Mason Rudolph win 10 games and get him in the playoffs? Because I think that is something to be said. It depends upon how much faith Mike Tomlin has in Mason Rudolph. I don't think he would have brought him back if he did not believe that he was the guy. So that is something to be said about that. And a lot of the guys out there that, you got Burrow, Lamar, and Joe Flacco in Cleveland with Shedeur Sanders. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't think the AFC North is going to be any walk in the park by any means. So the Steelers kind of got to get the poop in a group and figure it out what they're doing at quarterback. They let Russ walk. They let Justin walk. I think those were calculated moves because they didn't feel like they could be the guy. Justin Fields ended up getting his money with the Jets. Good luck to you. Russ, you're in New York. Good luck to you. I don't know what else to say beyond that. Is Aaron Rodgers the best option? Is Mason Rudolph better than Aaron Rodgers right now? He's coming off the Achilles tear. And they were abysmal at the Jets. But also, let's remember, pretty much in New York with the Jets, that's kind of where careers go to die. I mean, Brett Favre couldn't even get him over the hump, and he took Minnesota to the playoffs. So do I think that the proof of concept is there in New York? Absolutely not. They were one of the best teams on paper last year. But Aaron Rodgers was like a top 10 quarterback last year. That's not saying much considering, some of the guys they got floating out there. Um, it's one of those things that I think they've got to get something over the hump here. They got to get, I don't think that there would be all this buzz and speculation about Rodgers not being there. Maybe he doesn't want to go to OTAs. That might be what it's going to be. I mean, it's up there in Latrobe. Maybe he doesn't want to go to Latrobe and stay in a dorm and go to Sharky's Cafe. I don't know. But, I mean, camp is coming up. It's one of those things. And then also we don't know that Mason Rudolph was asked if he's spoken to Aaron Rodgers, and he said no. He's not talked to him at all. There's all kinds of buzz, which I'm really shocked at the beat for asking him that, because the Steelers are pretty much lock and key organization. They don't let anything out. Everything's tight-lipped. There's no leaks per se. That's just kind of the way it is. So I think the Steelers need to ask themselves, does Aaron Rodgers put us over the hump? Me personally, I think he's a better option right now than what Mason Rudolph is, because Mason Rudolph is limited to a certain extent. The biggest thing is, can Aaron Rodgers push the ball down the field to utilize DK Metcalf? Because I think that's what they need, to be honest. That's what the Steelers need. They need somebody that can push the ball down the field, and I think this year they'll be able to run the ball better. That's just something I think that Arthur Smith's going to get back to. Black and blue football in the AFC North, running the ball, pushing the ball down the field. So I know it sounds like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth on that one, but I do think that Arthur Smith can fix some of the issues. I mean, he was in his first year with kind of a cobbled together quarterback room. They brought in Fields. Arthur Smith sees him every day in practice. That's kind of what it is. And if Arthur didn't think he was the guy, he was the head coach in the NFL. So I think the guy knows something about football. He comes back to Pittsburgh this year, which I think that he had a couple of college offers, didn't want to go do the whole NIL transfer portal thing, so he's back. And I think the only way Arthur Smith can get another head coaching job is to do great things with the Steelers offense. And that is something that is appealing to NFL owners. If you're an offensive guru, look at Liam Cohen, Mr. Duval. He comes back and he is, trying to get a head coaching job. I mean, that's why you are still in football. So I think that at a certain extent, the footballing with Ben Roethlisberger, they had Jack Sawyer and Will Howard on, and I think that's very telling. At some point, maybe Ben's trying to tell us something there by having Will Howard and Jack Sawyer there under an underlying issue, maybe saying, hey, I'm inviting these guys to my house, two rookies, welcoming them to Pittsburgh kind of in a great way. I think that's a pretty good vote of confidence, in my opinion. But yeah, Terry Bradshaw has the pointed words, and I think Terry Bradshaw's got 4 Super Bowl rings, and Ben's got the other 2. So I think that Aaron is a polarizing figure, and it's something to be said that Terry Bradshaw took it upon himself. I mean, he's been on TV for 30 some odd years, and I think he's got every right to criticize the organization. I know the fans ran him out of town to a certain extent in a way, but I know that's probably not popular. But to some things that we have rolling here, I think the defense is ready to go. I think it struggled down the stretch, and TJ Watt struggled down the stretch. You don't know if he was 100% healthy or not, but they haven't won a playoff game since TJ's been drafted. So that's his whole career. He's in the final year of his contract, and I think them drafting Jack Sawyer was a way of saying, "Hey, this guy is a pass rusher. We're going to develop him into what you can do, and we'll let you walk." That's pretty much the way I'm taking it. That's the way I think if anybody with that applies any logic to it, they're not gonna be held hostage. I don't think they're being held hostage by Aaron Rodgers by any means, because you know what? They're gonna kick the football off and they're gonna go play football. I just think that they probably offered him a contract, whether he signs it, whether he doesn't. But I think there's probably an expiration date on that contract. I would say maybe June 1st, or maybe when training camp starts, and that offer probably won't be there. And so maybe it's the best bet for Aaron Rodgers to retire. So I gotta look at it, but I think Aaron's got to look at it and see what he wants to do, because I don't think the Steelers are going to beg him, but I also don't think that they're going to be devastated. I think that's the whole lateral move by getting Will Howard and drafting Will Howard and bringing in Mason Rudolph. I don't think Mason Rudolph is the guy of the future. Will Howard's more of the guy of the future than anything. Aaron Rodgers is just a stopgap. And Terry also said it was dumb for them to bring him in for 1 year, but if you go win a Super Bowl, it's kind of like you look at the tenure of Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay. Is it dumb? Tampa Bay got a Super Bowl out of it. I get it. It's Tom Brady, the greatest ever, but Aaron Rodgers has lost a fistful of NFC championship games, like two to the Niners, two to the Giants. So, and Aaron Rodgers beat the Steelers in the Super Bowl. So I think it would be an interesting dynamic not to bring him in if you have the option, because, if they yank the deal, he'll talk about it. That's one thing I think the Steelers need to be aware of, that Mike Tomlin got asked at the coach's luncheon if he's talked to Aaron Rodgers, and he said those communications between me and Aaron will be private. So do I think that they're in communication? Yeah, I think they're probably in constant communication. It's just that if Mike Tomlin's not going to come out and say that we're moving on from Aaron Rodgers, or we're moving on with who we have in the quarterback room, I think it's still on the docket, to be honest. So I don't think that until Mike Tomlin or the Steelers say otherwise, I don't think that there's anything that they are not telling. But until the Steelers say, hey, we moved on, that's when they moved on. So I think Terry Bradshaw is upset because this is not the Steeler way. The Steelers don't go out and sign big free agents. They don't make trades. They draft and develop. That's what the Steelers have been. That's what they've been made on ever since Chuck Noll was there. Draft and develop, draft and develop. So do I think that this is kind of catching people off guard? But I think Omar Khan is, I don't know if he's feeling the heat or he thinks his seat's hot, but I think that he is, tired of the not being able to get it done at the quarterback position. But they've only drafted one quarterback really since post Ben. Well, two now, is Will Howard and Kenny Pickett. So do I think that is something that is bothering Omar Khan? Do I think they have a quarterback evaluation problem? I don't know. They haven't drafted enough to say, hey, this guy doesn't work. I think Skylar Thompson's the other guy on the roster. So I think that where we're sitting and where we're going is not necessarily it's not necessarily 100% bad, but I think that eventually they're going to make a decision on what they're going to do, and so that's where we're at right now. And then also we're at the that's the end of the first segment. So if you're watching on X, come on over to the YouTube side of things. It's the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. This is the Steel City segment of it. Normally go in the morning. We primarily do college football on this thing, but this is a show that I've came up with out of my gourd. But if you can hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this show, and then eventually, if this show gets big enough and the channel gets big enough, this will have its own channel. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. And if you want to know whenever we go live on this channel, turn on those bell notifications. So that helps us. If you like Steeler football, hit that like and subscribe button. So, some other news going into it. The talking heads at ESPN have named the Steelers the least improved franchise heading into 2025. The swap of DK Metcalf for George Pickens, Najee Harris for Caleb Johnson. So, and also Roman Wilson's going to come back this year and be 100% healthy. I'm interested to see what that kid can do. That's something that I think that will be good. He'll have another weapon, and Roman Wilson could turn out to be one of those guys like that comes on the scene out of nowhere, like Stephon Diggs did out of Maryland for the Vikings, many years ago. And then Stephon Diggs has a couple big games, and he's a household name, and he's a commodity. But, we see how that's working out for him. And that is courtesy of Steelers Smoke on Instagram. They put that little thing together as a trending post, but that is something that, you got to keep your eyeball on. I think Roman Wilson can come in and be a contributor kind of day one to the cause. So I think if you're a free agent quarterback, they didn't bring back Russ, which I don't necessarily disagree with, because I think Russ is an immediate upgrade over Aaron Rodgers, to be honest with you. I don't see how you can justify keeping Russ, because Russ he went to New York. You wish him the best. What he did for the Steelers, but I just don't see how Russ can get the Giants over the hump unless Daboll completely caters to him. But Russ was good at throwing the deep ball. Maybe they'll have something with him and Neighbors, win some games, keep Joe Shane and Brian Daboll away from the sicko. Ding, ding, ding. Shout out my guy Torg. But that is something to be said. And then Justin Fields goes to the Jets. He's going to reunite with Garrett Wilson. They were both ex of the Ohio State. So I think that Justin Fields, did Russ or Justin go to a great situation? They're both in New York in the same building. I don't think I would have went to the Jets per se as a destination. I think that going to New York, you've seen what Aaron Rodgers tried to do, and maybe Justin can do something different, but you gotta wish him well at some point in time. And then seeing another graphic I thought was interesting. Which is the most likely quarterback to win the Super Bowl this year? This was put out by CBS, the NFL on CBS. Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Tua, and Jared Goff. I think Josh Allen is in a pivotal time in his career, because time is undefeated, and Josh Allen has got to get the Bills over the hump. They got to beat Patrick Mahomes. That's the big thing with the Bills right now. Dak Prescott, Dallas. I don't know what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be. As long as Jerry is still pulling the strings down there, I got little to no hope. Lamar Jackson. Can Lamar Jackson get over the hump? The same thing with Josh Allen. It's can you beat Mahomes and the Chiefs? Lamar had a shot 2 years ago, couldn't get it done, but he couldn't get it done against Josh Allen and the Bills. So I think that's something to be said there. So the time is also clicking on Lamar Jackson's time in the NFL. And then Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow's out of all the guys on the outside of Jared Goff, Joe Burrow's the only one that has been to a Super Bowl, and he ran into a buzzsaw that was the LA Rams that year. I think that the big question mark is, can Cincinnati get the Hendricks thing done and solved, and can that defense, do better than what they did last year? Because last year they couldn't even play dead in a Western, to be honest. That's how bad Cincinnati was on defense, and that's not even a shot at Hendricks. Andy led the NFL in sacks, and they don't want to pay the guy. That doesn't make any sense to me. Cincinnati kind of being notoriously cheap, and then they drafted defensive tackle in the first round that didn't play didn't practice in OTAs because of the medical waiver that the Bengals, 31 other teams insure it, but the Bengals won't. That just, you wonder why you don't win. That's something. That's just something. But I'm really shocked that Cincinnati has paid Burrow, Higgins, and Chase, which I think they needed to keep that whole thing in line and in together. So that's just something to be said. And then moving on to Justin Herbert in the Chargers, I think Harbaugh is secretly building something to beat Kansas City for the long term. He goes out and he signs Najee Harris, and I think Najee's going to get a lot of work. He's going to get a lot of work in LA. He better be ready to carry the rock 25, 30 times a game. That's all I'm saying. Whether it turns out good or bad, but Najee Harris is going to get some work, and he signed a 1-year deal, so we'll see where Najee's career ends up. But Harbaugh's going to use the shit out of him. I know that much. Jaden Daniels, which I'm really shocked that Jaden Daniels is kind of on this list. I think that the Commanders, they went out and got Deebo Samuel. They're committing. I think the Commanders, I don't know if there's going to be a sophomore slump for Jaden Daniels, to be honest. There might be the likelihood of him having a sophomore slump. The odds are better that way, but CJ Stroud had a sophomore slump and he won the division. So, but Jaden Daniels in there with the Eagles. It's always tough, especially Hurts and Philly coming off the Super Bowl win. It's just one of those things that it's tough coming back outside of winning the Super Bowl. So I think the NFC East is up for grabs, and anybody that could run in there and snatch it could be the Commanders with Jalen Daniels. So, and then another polarizing figure. Figure the Steeler fans are going to boo when I bring this guy up. Baker Mayfield. Can Baker Mayfield get the Bucs to the Super Bowl? I think Tampa Bay had a pretty decent offensive line. I think if they could run the ball a fuzz better, they would probably be more formidable. They picked up Emeka Egbuka in the draft out of Ohio State. Ohio State's all-time leading receiver, which is kind of funny to me, but who would have thought that Emeka would have the most yards at Ohio State outside of, all the great guys they had, Olave, Marv, Jackson Smith and Jigma, so in Garrett. So Ohio State's had some greats at the wideout, especially the last couple of years. So that is where Baker and them are at. Can Emeka Egbuka make some hay and take some major pressure off of Mike Thomas and get Tampa Bay over the hump? I think if they play solid defense, which, Todd Bowles' teams have played solid defense all the way back when he was the head coach at the Jets. So just couldn't get it together on offense. They lose Liam Cohen over to Jacksonville. So it's going to be a new look Bucks team on offense, and we'll see what Tampa Bay has got in store. I think they have the best chance of winning that NFC South division out of anybody, because the Saints are an abject kind of a dumpster fire right now. Carolina, who the hell knows? Is Bryce Young going to start week to week? Carolina's got a lot of things to figure out. And then you have Atlanta with Raheem Morris. He's an ex of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was the head coach at Tampa Bay and ended up getting let go and found his way back to the head seat. He's got Michael Penix. He fast forward out of the Kirk Cousins thing. So I don't think that's a Atlanta. I would say to have the second best odds. So that's just me on that side of it. And then you go to Miami with Tua. This may be unpopular. Tua's got to stay healthy. At some point, I think somebody needs to, if he gets another concussion, Miami drafted Quinn Ewers for a reason. So I don't know what that looks like, what it's going to look like down in Miami. But if Tua gets another concussion, I'm not wishing ill on anybody, but I think at some point somebody seriously needs to step in and maybe say, hey, man, this is not good for you. This is not conducive for long-term health. And then we round out this list with Jared Goff of the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell. I like everything about Detroit. They just came up short this year, and I think that regular season success didn't translate over. A lot of people picked Detroit to win the Super Bowl. I think the Spielman brothers up there in Detroit have turned it around. I think the Ford family has let the football people make the football decisions, and I think that's why you see why Detroit is the way it is. So outside of Philadelphia, I think Detroit is the second best team in the NFC this year. I don't see how. I don't think Green Bay is better than them. Minnesota has J.J. McCarthy, probably most likely going to be their starter this year. So we'll see what Minnesota looks like. Is it going to look anything like Sam Darnold? I don't know. I'm going to say a first-year starter may come out guns a-blazing the first couple of weeks, but, once you get later in the season and you get closer to playoff time, those defenses change, and that's why they pay the defensive coordinators big bucks to shut guys down. Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen have both experienced that, and I think Jaden Daniels got a little bit of a taste of that going up against Vic Fangio's unit in Philly. So that is kind of where it's at on that list with those guys. And then we got the playoff teams from last year. Everybody knows which one is it going to be. Baltimore. I think Baltimore is probably going to be the betting favorite to win the AFC North. I bet they're minus money. I haven't checked any of the books, and then Buffalo, Denver, Detroit, Green Bay, Houston, Kansas City, Los Angeles, Minnesota, Philly, Pittsburgh, Tampa Bay, Washington. Just going down the list here, I think Baltimore has everything. They went out and signed DeAndre Hopkins. I don't know if that's going to work or not. If he ain't getting the rock from Lamar, I think that's trouble in paradise. Buffalo, I think Buffalo's the best team in the AFC East by far. And this is brought to you by NFL Fox or Fox Sports or whatever. But Denver, I think Denver, Bo Nix, that is something that is going to be interesting. I think Denver had a pretty decent draft, and we'll see if Bo Nix can duplicate that success. But that division just got a whole hell of a lot harder. You got Harbaugh, Pete Carroll, and Andy Reid and Sean Payton all in one division. So there's not going to be any secrets, and I don't think there's not going to be anybody that's going to be not prepared. I could see that division all going 500. Everybody splits. I would not be shocked if everybody splits in the AFC West. Detroit, I think Detroit is better than Green Bay. Whether they demonstrate that throughout the whole year, I like Jared Goff more than Jordan Love. I think Green Bay is sneaky good. Don't get me wrong, against the other teams in the NFC. So I think the top three teams in the NFC are probably Detroit, Green Bay, uh, the Rams, and the Eagles. Sliding down to the next column of this graphic, the Houston Texans. What are the Houston Texans going to be this year? Made a coordinator change. They had some injuries. I thought Houston kind of had a good abysmal year. I thought they had a lot of issues on offense. CJ Stroud didn't look overly thrilled. So I think that, Tank Dell goes down, Nico Collins goes down. I think a lot of the things that rolled into the Texans' issues were all on the offensive side of the ball, and then I don't think the offense helped the defense. So DeMeco Ryans kind of having a regroup coming off a division championship. So I think that is something to be said there. Maybe Houston can right the ship and get it turned around and be ready to go and locked in for the year. And then you have Kansas City going to have a big Super Bowl hangover. Maybe, I don't know. Andy Reid's lost the Super Bowl, and he's lost 3 Super Bowls. So I think he'll be able to get it together. It completely goes out. And after they got their ass kicked up front on the offensive line, Andy Reid comes out and solidifies it through the draft. I don't think Kansas City is completely counted out of this. I'm not going to say Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback ever, but he's good at what they do. He's really good at what they do. Andy Reid develops the whole offense around him for his skill set. Think of it this way. Shout out to Coach JB. You don't see Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball into the teeth of the defense. I'm not the greatest quarterback evaluator, but you don't see him push it vertically. So not like Matt Stafford and the Rams do. If you look at the two offenses, I like the Rams to definitely come back to the playoffs as long as Stafford and everybody stays healthy, which I know this is football and not everybody's healthy, but Stafford and the Rams are going to be formidable. They pick up Devontae Adams, which is a huge get. I think that Devontae Adams returns to normal. He's got somebody that can spin the ball. You don't have the weird, awkward situation that is the New York Jets. I don't think anybody was happy there. I just think the Jets are probably, outside of the Cleveland Browns, the worst ran franchise in the NFL. So that's just something to be said there. Then the Chargers, the other team in LA, which looks like a home game for whoever they're playing. LA fans need to show up because they're actually probably going to have a winner this year. A lot of the fans, if you're a crossover from the college football evening show, not big Harbaugh fans, but I will say this much: Jim Harbaugh can coach NFL football, whether anybody wants to believe that or not. He's going to take it back old school, and they're going to run the ball down your throat, play good defense, not turn the ball over. And I think Justin Herbert is set up for success, and I don't think that they're going to do anything out of character. If you go back and look at his Niners teams, they didn't do anything completely off the wall. They played good defense and ran the ball. It took them all the way to a Super Bowl where he lost to his brother, John. So I think that Harbaugh and the Chargers, them drafting Joe Alt was a huge get, solidifying up front. So I think, Joe Alt, I'm really high on that guy out of Notre Dame. Probably he'll end up, play 15 years in the league and duplicate Joe Thomas's career, but hopefully with more regular season success. And then you have the Minnesota Vikings doing the quarterback switcheroo. Maybe J.J. McCarthy, having all the weapons there in Minnesota, can get something done. We will see. I don't think it's a be-all, end-all to what it pans out to be. Maybe JJ can play, maybe he can't, but we'll see where that pans out. And then Philadelphia, the Eagles, coming off a Super Bowl championship. Will the Eagles and Nick Sirianni got a big extension, a big vote of confidence, winning the Super Bowl will do that for you. So I'll be interested to see what Philadelphia does this year. Maybe could they repeat? Yeah, they got Saquon Barkley, one of the best offensive weapons in the league. So that's where that's at. And we move now to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has if they just run their offense and don't get out of character and don't try to do anything crazy, Tampa Bay can coast to that division win. Unless miraculously Carolina gets it together and decides to be formidable, but I still think they're a little. I still think if Carolina wants to be able to have any semblance, they need a lot of help on defense. And the Saints, I don't know what the Saints are. I think you completely blow that up, strip the roster, get rid of the bad contracts. Derek Carr retiring, I think, helps them. I'm not a capologist, but I would say that helps a lot. And then Washington, Jaden Daniels being one of the top tier quarterbacks in the league as a rookie says something. They got a couple of good young guys. And the Bears swung and missed. They should have drafted Daniels instead of Caleb Williams, just in my feeble-minded opinion. That's kind of where that's at. And then, we'll see where that pans out, but that is something to be said. So we're about at the 40-minute mark. Got some people in here, but comment your questions and hit the like and subscribe button as it says on the ticker down below. Hit the like and subscribe. I think Steel City is going to probably be rolling in the mornings, and then tonight we got the college football show. Richie's going to be joining me on that. We're going to be talking all things college football, seeing how that is going. And this is the NFL show, so Steel City, and then we'll get it rolling. But we're about to get into some over/under win totals from year to year on this last segment, and then we'll get everybody out, and hopefully everybody will enjoy the rest of the day. But with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button. If you like the Steelers, you just like football, hit the like and subscribe so we can get this through the algorithm. Starting off, we'll just go down the list here. This is from Bear Sports or something where I found this graphic. But Kansas City's win total, 20. It stayed the same. It's still at 11.5. So Vegas thinks Kansas City's going to be good. The Ravens go up. They go up by a game from 10.5 to 11.5. And the Bengals go from 10.5 to 9.5, which is a decrease. So something to be said there. The Bills go up by a game, go from 11.5 to, or go from 10.5 to 11.5. The Chiefs and the Bills have the highest win totals in the AFC this year. So Miami goes down 2 games. Miami goes from 10.5 to 8.5 wins. Texans stay the same at 9.5. The Jets went from 9.5, losing Aaron Rodgers, to 5.5. So the Jets lose 4 games in their season total. The Chargers stay the same at 9.5. And the Browns go from 8.5 last year to 4.5 this year. The Browns and the Jets have the biggest decreases in the NFL. Oh, well, not in the NFL, in the AFC. And the Browns have the lowest win total at 4.5 wins. That's what Vegas thinks of the Browns. Do I think the Browns could win 5 games? I don't know. Depends on who's playing quarterback. If it's Flacco and Flacco plays well, the Browns will be formidable. That's just, don't sleep on. I'm saying don't sleep on Joe Flacco. That's just something, because everybody has wrote Flacco off. Every time they wrote him off, like the last time Cleveland signed him, and it was, oh, they're bringing Flacco in. Well, Joe played well. Took him to the playoffs. So it was a concerted team effort there, obviously, but that's just something to be said there. The Colts go from 8.5 wins to 7.5 wins, and it's going to be the first season in a long time without Mr. Jim Irsay passing away there. That is something to be said. The the Colts are going to deeply miss Mr. Irsay and all the things and all the lives he's touched. And, the big thing is that people, I've seen it on Instagram, I've seen it on Twitter, X, but I've seen it everywhere where people want to bring up all the bad shit he ever did. I think he had some unfortunate times, and I think it's highly, highly disrespectful to Mr. Irsay in that capacity, because the other thing is there's a lot of people that like to hide behind keyboards, and when confronted face to face, they don't really have a lot to say because they want to shake your hand and take a picture. But with that being said, Jacksonville goes from 8.5 to 7.5. Steelers stay the same, 8.5 wins. I think I'd like the over, regardless if they have Mason Rudolph. It'll either be, I think they at worst case scenario, the Steelers will go 9-8 if it's Rudolph all year. The Raiders stay the same, which is funny to me. Especially getting Pete Carroll. He picks up Geno Smith. I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders win 9 games this year. Tennessee, rookie quarterback, second-year head coach. They go from 6.5 to 5.5. Very interesting there with Tennessee picking up Cam Ward. I don't know how that's going to go. So we'll see what Tennessee is. The AFC South's a little bit of a weaker division, and then the Broncos to round it out. The Broncos last year 5.5. They go up from 5.5 to 9.5. A four game difference. So the Broncos, Vegas is high on the Broncos as well. The Patriots with a 4-game swing as well. So New England goes from 4.5 wins to 8.5 wins. I don't think that's a bad how do I want to say it? A bad swing for the Patriots. That is just something to be said there. They pick up Mike Vrabel, and we'll see how that is panned out. But the other funny thing when it comes down to stuff in the AFC North is, how funny is it that the Ravens cut Justin Tucker, and Harbaugh says it's a very complex. It was a very complex thing that they try to navigate around. To me, I find it funny. Not what he did, but the way Harbaugh worded it and tried to back out of it, which he had to know going into the press conference. They were going to get poked and prodded about that 100%. So I just don't know why he wouldn't have been better prepared, to be honest. So, but I think, rolling around the division, the Ravens should be the betting favorite. So that's just something to keep an eyeball on. I thought it was interesting that Mike Vrabel had to address the Stephon Diggs yacht video, and then everybody talking about the substance. I think that's why Stephon Diggs is, going on his third team in 3 years. That's just something to be said there. And then I'm just reading down the ESPN. The Reggie Wayne also on the Colts side of it urged the guys in his position group, the wide receivers, to learn about Mr. Irsay. So that's just some other news there. I think that it's a very interesting time in Indianapolis, and hopefully they can rally and maybe make the playoffs, win one for the Irsay family. Also, the Will Levis quote says, "I'm trying to be the same guy despite a quarterback battle, or try to be the same dude." Will Levis was pumped up to be a first round pick, slides out of there, had to sit there on national television. Got it hasn't gone swimmingly for old Bill Levis in the since he's been a Tennessee Titan. Flacco wants to lead the Browns by example. Yeah, I get it, Joe, but you gotta be consistent. That's all I gotta say on that. Is if Flacco's consistent, the Browns will be formidable. I think their defense will be really good this year. And then rounding out the top headlines on the Four Letter Network, the Giants, Russell Wilson takes first team reps, so they're not starting Jameis, which is really shocking to me, because Jameis has got that gunslinger mentality. It just, it is what it is, but we'll see what that pans out to be. And then one last thing I want to ask. You can put it in the comments if you made it to the end of the video. Put it in the comments. Do the Steelers make the playoffs without Aaron Rodgers? Do they need Aaron Rodgers to make the playoffs? That is something that also needs to be talked about. I think they can sneak in there now. Will they be 100% locked on to where they're one of the top teams in the playoffs with Mason Rudolph? It's hard to say. It's hard to say yes to that, but it's just something that they have to do. I think that, some of the first-year head coaches coming in this year, you got Kellen Moore, Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas, Kellen Moore at New Orleans. Pete Carroll's not a first-time head coach, but he's a new head coach. Took that year off. Liam Cohen, Aaron Glenn at the Jets, Ben Johnson at the Bears, and Vrabel at the Patriots, which I think that's a hell of a fit for New England. And it was one of the better spots, to be honest, because you come in to Drake May, and you came into a bunch of cap room. They draft the Cable kid out of LSU, which I think he's gonna be a player, even though some people said that he's got short arms or something. But also the Browns I thought the Browns had a good draft picking up Mason Graham. He's going to wreck shop in the middle. So he's going to be somebody that the Steelers are going to have to, block. So I'm really shocked by the Brian Schottenheimer thing in Dallas. It's I wouldn't say that it's off-putting, but I don't know if they just wanted to hire a guy that's in the building and not try to do a complete resell, tear down, rebuild. On the Jerry side of things, it seems like in Dallas and I know this is cliched, but it seems like in Dallas that Jerry refuses to tear it down and completely rebuild it from the ground up. So that's just something to be said there. And then some of the viewing for tonight, I believe, NBA front, if you even care, Pacers take on the Knicks on the road elimination game. Of course, we got Major League Baseball, and then we have the NHL playoffs. The Panthers dispatch the Hurricanes. last night, and then I believe tonight we have the Dallas taking on the Oilers in a elimination game. So we'll see where those games go. So yeah, that's pretty much what we got rolling. Everything's pretty much quiet on the Steelers front, except for the Terry Bradshaw thing. Another thing I would ask it as a poll question: whose side are you on? You on Terry's side or are you on the logo side? Is Terry? I think Terry Bradshaw is in the right for calling him out and trying not to make it about one person, trying to make it about the team. So that is something that, I'd like to hear a lot of the fans' rebuttal on that. Is Terry Bradshaw not in the right, but do you agree with Terry Bradshaw? As I would say, do you agree 100%? Which, Terry's a big voice. He's a big voice being on Fox every Sunday. So that is something to be said. And, I'll be interested to see if they get the TJ Watt deal done and how much is that going to cost. So I'm also ready to see some type of football to get football season underway. Be interested to see Caleb Johnson. I wonder how this kid's going to do coming into this year. How many touches is he going to get? I think he could be a big contributor early if they roll with Mason Rudolph. They're going to lean heavily on the run game. I think Arthur Smith knows that. And I think that, that could be something to be said about why they didn't retain Russ. Because they bring in DK Metcalf. Do the Steelers get to 10 wins? Finished second in the division last year, 10-7. They did have that win over Baltimore, but Baltimore beat them at home when it mattered most. And, the offense completely, the wheels fell off of it the last couple of weeks, and the Steelers went on that losing streak, and I don't think they corrected it, and they didn't get it together. So I think as long as the Steelers can get the quarterback situation figured out, they should be all right. That's pretty much where it's at. A couple of notes: the Panthers are really excited to have the McMillan kid. The Panthers being a young team, so we'll see who flashes at the beginning of the year and who can maintain it. The Steelers started out first 12 weeks. They looked like world beaters after they got the offense completely figured out. And then I think the wheels started to fall off when they lost that game at Cleveland, and it just kind of snowballed from there all the way down. They lost some games that they should have won, like the Dallas game on Sunday Night Football should have won that one. So I think that, going forward, when you had a solidified quarterback, those were the games that you would win. Typically, when they had Ben back there, slinging the rock, 45 times a game under Bruce Arians. So I think that that's something to be said. So, but yeah, I'll throw it out there one last time. If you're watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing. And I think we'll probably be back possibly tomorrow morning again with the Steel City show. It's been a little inconsistent, been a little hit or miss, but if you could bear with us until football season gets around, and maybe I'll find a co-host for this thing with me, and we'll try to grow this, and then we'll put it on its own channel, and then it'll be all Steelers all the time and all NFL. But yeah, so answer that poll question about the Terry Bradshaw calling out the Steelers, and let's see where it ends up. But yeah, outside of that, pretty quick, short 1 hour show, in and out, 3 segments, and we'll keep it pushing. Preseason will be here before you know it, and let's keep it rolling. So with that being said, everybody have a great rest of your day, and we'll probably catch you tomorrow morning. Hit that like and subscribe button, and help us grow this thing. All right, everybody.